the Lord is using this to actually sift the churches to see who is real and who is not. Is our faith worth dying for? I say, if my faith is not worth dying for, it's not worth living for.
Welcome back, folks. I have another special guest from Canada today. It's Pastor Henry Hilderbrandt, and I came across Pastor Henry as he's run into some trouble with the Canadian government because of some church issues. So, Pastor, thanks for your time today.
Gladly. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Let's go to the beginning. I know recently you were fined $65,000. You pleaded guilty, but we'll kind of circle back to that. That was very recent. But when did your troubles with the Canadian government begin?
So it basically began early of 2020 when COVID set in. I guess that was the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And I saw the video where the police came out and locked down your church. Were you just defying the Toronto, was it the act of worship, keeping your church open?
That's correct. They had said at that point that well, you know how it started. First, they said they needed 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and we had no problem doing that. We shut down everything. And I told the people, I said, as the people of God, as Christians, obviously, we will do whatever we can. We will help. And like they said, thousands and thousands were going to die. So we figured, obviously, we will do whatever we can. But we all found out very soon after that that it wasn't the case, what they were saying it was. And then we found out, it wasn't long after we found out that the issue was not a health issue. We found out that it is them locking us down and dividing us and shutting the churches down. The reason we knew that is because we saw that the parking lots at the liquor store or McDonald's or the grocery stores, no problem. But we said, how is it that those parking lots are fine, but the church parking lot is supposed to be empty? And they made the bold statement. They said, well, church is not essential. And that hit a nerve. That hit a nerve. I thought, well, I guess by God's grace, they are about to find out that church is essential, because church is really essential, especially if we're in a difficult time. That's when the people need us the most. And if the health issue is not that serious, that those parking lots there are fine, then obviously the devil has something else here in mind, and that is to just divide us and just to lock us down. And like I said, that did not work. We are a very close-knit community, and for someone to tell us that you cannot gather, you cannot be together, you cannot worship together, that's it's just I would say it's just an impossibility. And I know if it had to be, or if there really was an issue, like we look at Christians in the past, they were in the catacombs, or John was on the Isle of Patmos, if that really is the case. But it was very obvious that it was not the case, and we felt like we needed to take a stand.
What was the timeline when you began to see through the kind of, I guess what I would say was the lie of the government? So you shut down for 2 weeks. When did you begin to say, hey, this is kind of hypocritical? You know, all the liquor stores are open, and I guess they're exempt from getting COVID. They can go in and buy whatever liquor they want, but they can't meet and worship God. So how long, kind of give us a little time frame on that. How long did it take till y'all got together and said, hey, you know, something's not right here. You know, this is just, it's not adding up.
Exactly. So actually, that happened very, very fast. Like I said, the first 2 weeks, we had no issue believing them. We thought that they were telling us the truth, and we complied. But when they said, oh, now we need another 2 weeks, now we need another month, it was very soon after that that we realized. So what happened is, we had never heard of a drive-in service in Canada, but we had heard of a drive-in service in the States. And we thought, well, maybe that's what we need to do. If the virus is so vicious, then what we will do is we will come and we will be in our cars, and we will have the windows rolled up, and surely that virus should not be able to get through the glass, right? So we put the signs up by the driveway that you can listen in to this station on the radio. And then I would get out. I was the only one. I would get out on the platform of a trailer, and I started preaching out there. And it was in the middle of cold weather, sometimes rainy weather, whatever it was. And we just had drive-in service. Well, the police came and they checked that up, and they said, that's an excellent invention. That looks excellent. They checked it all up. People are in their cars, not a problem. And then I think it was just the third one that we did. The police called us that afternoon. They said, no more drive-in services for you. And I said, why not? They said, well, we had some complaints. We had 15 calls. Oh, I said, well, that's very interesting. They said, you can no longer do it. So I said, let me ask you, if McDonald's would receive 15 calls, would they close? Or if the liquor store would get 15 calls that somebody complained, would they close? If that is the case, I mean, then let's place 15 calls, right? But no, he said, we cannot do it. And that's when we understood we were under attack. And we said, well, we will continue our drive-in services. And the police said, well, you can't. And I said, well, we will be. And we did. And they came on the yard there, and they scanned our license plates and tried to stand in the way and try to hinder our services, which is totally contrary to the criminal code, section 176. It says you're never supposed to interrupt a service. But anyway, they said it didn't count. Right now, they could do it because there was a pandemic. Well, we went on and we had our drive-in service, and it just became more and more ridiculous with the lockdowns. As you know, it just became very obvious that things were wrong. So we started meeting back in our meeting house, and we just said, look, we understand it's not a health issue. We now know that it's not proven. So we will just have, we will be back in our meeting house, which we did. And then the court fined us the court fined us $274,500 in fines, and we paid them. And they came down and locked our building. While we were in there, we were singing, we were praying, and they came and locked the building up. And then we met outside. What that did is it increased. People just came. Our congregation went from 200 to 1,000 because people were just from all over, hours away. People were just coming and saying, we're supporting you, we're supporting you. So we went through quite something.
Yeah. So y'all actually paid that 270 something $1,000 fine.
We did. We had no choice. At first, we thought, I said, well, let them put me in prison or whatever. But then the government took a different approach, and they said, we'll go after the widows in the congregation, the small families, the young families, the single moms or whatever. And I said, no, you won't. And they said, yes, we will. And I said, no, you won't. That's when I told the whole world, this is our situation. And within 2 months, the whole world chipped in, and we had 274,000. We paid it. Otherwise, they would have totally ruined the lives of those people. They knew that I was prepared by God's grace. I say that I was prepared to go to prison or whatever. And I said, I don't care if you ruin my life, but I said, not these young families and the widows. We had an 85-year-old lady that came to service. Just, I mean, a Christian through and through. She came through Second World War and whatnot, and they gave her a ticket for the police showed up at her door during snowy weather, gave her a ticket for $880. And she said, what's that ticket for? And the police said, this is for you attending the church service. And that's what I mean. I was not prepared for them to ruin her life and to drag her to court or whatever. So I said, then we'll just let the whole world know that this is the situation. So we had no choice and went ahead and paid it 274,000.
Yeah. Sometimes, like you said, you went from 200 to 1,000. A lot of times the church grows through persecution. I can't remember the
Absolutely.
exact quote, but it was like the lifeblood or the seed of the church is the blood of the martyrs, something along those lines. So, yes.
Yes.
So,
What we experienced here is what the devil meant for evil, God turned around for good. And we have never since that day, this is 3 years later now, we don't regret at all what has happened because we see God's hand in it, and it has brought us closer together. It has brought many people. We presently have people attending our services. He was an atheist. He said he did not believe in God. And when he saw what we were doing, He's here. He's worshiping God with us. He is a true Christian. God has totally changed his life. I said it was worth it all.
Yeah. And just for the record, everything that I've read, y'all had no cases of COVID from 2022 or going all the way back to 2020. So there was nobody that died in the congregation. There was nobody spreading COVID or anything like that was going on, correct?
The health unit, the local health unit here, tried for all they could, trying to pin one case to us. They weren't able to do. Could never trace that there was one COVID case that was related to us. We never had a funeral during 2020, 2021, 2022. Nobody died of COVID. There was nothing happening. Meanwhile, the police college, the Ontario Police College, which is 5 miles from us here, had 102 cases of it. And not that we wished it on them. It was just, it seemed like the Lord just made it plenty clear. I am with my people and they are doing my will. And we were not trying to spite the government. I was not trying to cause trouble in town. We were on our property. We were not causing other people trouble. But I said, well, it was just very difficult when the congregants came and they said, Pastor, will we still have service on Sunday? I said, yes, we will. And when the little children came and said, Pastor, will we have Sunday school or will we have church service? I said, yes, we will. And we don't regret that step because we came closer to God. And like I said, people got saved through it, still saved today, which we are so thankful for.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting that you mentioned that about the statistics. I guess I immediately when you said that, I thought about the children of Israel in Egypt during the plagues. It was like God was separating one from the other, where the children of God were exempt from the plagues that were falling on the Egyptians.
Exactly. And you know what was really interesting is during this difficult time, people would pull up on the yard and they were troubled and they were so afraid because of what was going on. And they said, are we allowed to come on this yard? Are we allowed to worship with you? And I said, absolutely. All nations, all backgrounds. I said, there's no different races. We are one race. It's called a human race. And I said, we all sense the same thing. I said, don't be afraid. Come, let's pray together. Let's sing together. And we had some mighty good times, I'm telling you.
Praise God. So let's circle back. So you ponied up. Y'all paid $65,000 here. Was this about a week ago for a fine?
So last Thursday, I had just come back from a trip from Ireland. We had a church meeting in Ireland with the congregation there, and I had just come back. The following day was my court day, and the Crown prosecutor, I forgot what they call it in the States, but anyway, so the person that's working for it's the lawyer working for the government. He said that they were going to charge me, but of course, the tickets that I had a stack of tickets, and so did the church and my family and members of the church. Like I said, just a stack of tickets from attending church services. So they said, Pastor, if you will plead guilty to one charge, then we will charge you 65,000 and we will erase all those charges. I said, so what am I being charged for? I said, what have I done? Well, they said, the damage that you have done to the community. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, I'll offer you 75,000, not 65. I'll offer you 75,000 and we will pay that to the local food bank or the pregnancy center, whatever, just where the teenagers are in trouble, whatever. We'll donate it there and to make up for the damage that we have done to the community. And they said, no, we cannot do that. This money will go to the government. Well, I said, then the question remains, have we hurt the narrative of the government or have we hurt the local community? And obviously, we all know there was no hurt done to the local community. But anyway, so then the judge asked me, Pastor, would you plead guilty of these charges? I said, I will plead guilty that I am guilty of obeying God rather than man. Of course, that was a little shocked in her face when she heard that, but that was the only thing I could really say because I am not guilty of breaking any law. I understand that their mandate was that we weren't supposed to have church services, but my guilt, it lies in that I obeyed God, and by God's grace, with His help, going forward, I will always rather obey God than man. regardless of the consequences. So then they said, okay, then we will charge you. They said, you do need a slap on your hand for what you did. So we will charge you 65,000 Canadian dollars, and you will need to pay that. I said, okay, whatever you decide to do. So at this point, in that sense, I'm a free man. There's no more tickets hanging over me. By me saying that I was guilty of obeying God rather than man, that was enough for them to drop all the tickets. So now the 65,000 is standing there, and they're giving me a year to pay it.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I think it kind of showed their heart too when you offered very generously, hey, if I've harmed the community, I'll give an extra 10,000, I'll give
Yes,
75,000. And they turned that down, that the government wanted that money.
that's right.
That's very
That's right.
telling. So, here in the States, we're already beginning to see here, school has started, and already some of these schools have shut down for a week or 2 weeks. Do you foresee more lockdowns and more government, uh, uh, restraints upon the church going forward as we go into the fall?
So it seems like that there is rumors of it. It seems like that that's what they would like to do. I don't know that they will actually go ahead. There is such strong resentment in the public against lockdowns, against the mandates. There's such strong resentment against it. I'm not sure that they will be able to do it, but there is rumors of it that they are planning to do it, and then they're denying the rumors, saying no, it's not. Then it's coming again. So I don't know what exactly they will be doing. I'm hoping that they will remember that it didn't go well in the past, but who knows? God knows what is best, what He will allow for us, and we accept it out of His hands.
Did you see a lot of pastors stand with you and other churches stand with you, or did you just see them kind of fold up and go home?
I'm very sad to say that it's very few pastors that are willing to stand up. A lot of them use Romans 13, saying that we ought to obey the government. And to me, I find that so extremely strange to do that. I was telling somebody, I know this is not just a very deep thought, but I told somebody, I said, well, the book of Acts comes before the book of Romans. And in the book of Acts, it tells us that they told the apostles, you cannot come back to the temple. And yet they did. And then when the government officials told them, have we not told you not to come back to the temple? They said, well, we must obey God rather than man. So to me, this is not a Romans 13 issue at all, has nothing to do with that. A true government is there to do good works, not evil works, like it says in Romans 13. So it's very sad to me. I feel like the Lord is using this to actually sift the churches to see who is real and who is not. Is our faith worth dying for? I say, if my faith is not worth dying for, it's not worth living for. I know it's a strong statement, but I really believe that in my heart, that we must stand up to the governments, because now we already see here in Canada, and I think it's rapidly coming to the States as well. I hear of it in the States as well. It's not just closing down the churches. Now we have this drag queen stuff going on in the public schools, where the transgender issue is forcefully coming in. So I'm standing up for those children. The Muslims now here in Canada are really starting to rise up, because they were really treated very harshly when this Pride Month that they call in June, when that was coming into the schools. So what I'm saying is, it's not just about closing down churches. They are after our God-given freedom, whether that
Yes.
is religion, whether that is free speech, whether that is association, whatever it is. They are after our God-given freedom. And it's so unfortunate that the president of the United States is in it, the prime minister of Canada is in it. They do not have our best in mind. It doesn't matter what they say, because their actions, their fruit clearly shows that they are against God, against what is godliness, and wickedness is on the rise. But thank God, we know, it's like we have read the last page of the book. We know who's winning. We know the liars will be exposed. And I say it like this: the best for the Christians is yet to come, because it's like in a show of fireworks. I always say the grand finale is at the end, and God is going to have a grand finale. According to prophecy, He will show Himself strong, and I have no doubt of that. And that is the hope for us all. to stand strong regardless of what comes against us.
Yes, I think, as some of these other topics I'd like to get into with, but that was certainly one of my questions there. It seems like we started out with Pride Day, then it went to Pride Week, then it went to Pride Month. Now I believe we're in Pride
Yes,
season. And it
yes,
just
sir.
seems like the agenda is just to groom the children. You see it in the education
Absolutely.
system to where they're indoctrinating these kids who have no business being exposed to this type of deviant behavior, particularly at that particular age. It's just insanity.
Totally, totally. And it's wickedness, just real wickedness. And we see that instead of them educating the children, they're indoctrinating them. And the education system is not there to indoctrinate our children. Our parents have that God-given freedom and the God-given responsibility to educate our children on that line. It is not up to the education people to indoctrinate our children. Let them teach our children math and geography and like they used to. This is just so wrong, but it's very obvious for us. It's very obvious to see what the enemy has in mind, and that's why I'm saying I find it very difficult to understand how can we sit still when this is going on? How can we do nothing when we see that this is rapidly being taken over by the enemy? I feel like God is calling on us at this time to stand up and stand firm and stand together.
Hmm. Yeah, amen. Let's hit another topic here. It's euthanasia. It seems I was reading a statistic that but it's the third leading cause of death in Quebec. It accounts for over 7% of the deaths. Someone has dubbed it not free health care, but free death care.
Yes, it's unbelievable, unbelievable what is happening, and they are rapidly expanding that, offering that at the hospitals. And when a person comes in with severe depression, they're offering, telling them, you know what, you don't need to live, you can die. They are on standby and actively on standby, telling the people, and not just elderly either, not just elderly, as wrong as that is, but not just the elderly. They are doing it to young people and telling them, look, if you feel that life isn't worth living, this is what you can do. It's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. And again, it is our turn. We were born for a time such as this. We must stand up and call it for what it is. It's actually government sponsored murder. It is government sponsored murder. It is nothing less than that.
Yeah, and they're calling it health care.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, another topic that I'm sure is just mind bending to me is this child gender mutilation policy that the government's putting forth.
Right, right. I mean, you and I would have never thought that we would be faced with something like this. I mean, it's so insane. It is so out, totally out. And then to tell these children in school that they don't need to tell their parents if they're struggling with something like this, and the government supporting that and making a law saying that the parents are not allowed to be involved. And then here in Canada already imprisoning parents that have counseled their children regarding that and trying to help them, and going against the government passing a law here in Canada saying that pastors are not allowed to counsel their people on that line. Like it's unbelievable how fast that has gone.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to see. I know some of the school districts there in Canada, praise God, some of the parents on the particular day, Pride Day, and celebrating that, or Drag Queen Story Hour Day, they withheld and kept their children home. And a lot of the different school districts, it was such a significant number that when the kids came back, I think they were just like railing at them, like, how dare you miss such a special day for these people?
Exactly what happened here. It's 2 hours from where I am here. It happened at a school there. The school has about 800, 900 students, predominantly Muslim families, and 600 of those children did not show up on Pride Day. And the teacher did not realize the next day that somebody was recording the conversation, and she was berating those children and letting them have it and scolding them and shaming them on and on and on why they had not shown up in school. And these children were, I mean, it was so reversed. You know how a teacher should be the adult in the room, and the teacher should have the proper respect. It was the other way around. These students were so reasonable and trying to explain to the teacher, look, we can't go along with that. And that prompted me to send out a video, which I did, and it went viral. I actually just straight out said it. I said, I want to thank those Muslim families for taking a stand like that. It was ridiculous, just absolutely ridiculous what was happening there in that school there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Muslims, now that that's come up, I was going to get to that, but I just don't see the Muslim community bowing down to the government and allowing their children to be indoctrinated like that.
So this is what we're faced here right now. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but our government has, like last year, we had, I think they said the number was 500,000 immigrants, which I'm not against people immigrating. We need more people here. Canada has a lot of land, a lot of work, and so forth. So they had 500,000 people that immigrated, a lot, predominantly people of Muslim background. So what is happening here presently is our government does not realize, or is trying not to realize, is trying to hide the fact these people are very strong on family values, very strong on family structure. And I just want to publicly say I admire them for standing up on that topic. Because if we would do that, if our people, if we that have been here a long time, we that call ourselves Christians, if we would stand up like that, they could have never gone as far as where they have gone. Never. So now they're expecting that these families will rapidly bow to the government. The government hopes that they'll vote for them, and the government gives them money as they immigrate here. But I feel like that the Lord is going to use this for a totally different thing than what the government was hoping for. I'm expecting that the Lord will help. And I am personally right now connecting with the Muslim leaders. I had a recent meeting with them, and I told them I stand with you as far as the family structure is concerned. I stand with you that God has created that, and that we must stand together. So I don't know what will be happening here in the month of September. It seems like there's a big stir in Canada, across the country here, that in the month of December, the third week in September, they're talking about 1 million people march across the nation where people will stand up. I don't know what will materialize of that, but I am standing with anyone that will stand for God, that will stand for the word of God, that will stand for the structure that God has placed. If we lose our family structure, let me ask you, what is left? What do we have if we lose the God-given family structure? How the parents are there to instruct the children. If we lose that structure, it's tremendous. It's tremendous. It is nothing but wickedness in high places, and we must call it for what it is, with a bold spirit. And yet I have no bitterness in my heart. I was preaching on Sunday here. I said the Bible, my topic was love your enemies. I said, people, we got to love our enemies, pray for them, feed them, but we will be bold like Jesus was, like the apostles were. We've got to have that, because the enemy is bold, and he will not back down unless we are bold, and we know that God is on our side.
Hmm. Yes, it's interesting to see this all play out. I don't know if they're just naive about Muslims and their faith, or they've gotten themselves into something that there's going to become a reckoning for with that. I could
I
see
believe
that
that.
being a real issue going forward for the government.
Yes, sir. I believe that. I really believe that. And they are starting to stand up.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the discrimination with organ donors. People
Mhm.
who have not been vaccinated. I know recently there's been some cases that have been kind of high profile. I think you may have highlighted one I came across where it was a 35-year-old man with 5 children. And
Yes, sir.
because he was not vaccinated, they refused to give him a transplant.
Did you know that he even, so first of all, they denied him to be on the list of the organ donors. Like, first of all, he was refused to be on the list to receive a transplant because he was not vaccinated. Then his biological brothers walked into the hospital and said, or walked up to the medical team and told them, we are willing to give him one of our kidneys. We're willing to do that. And they still refused. And then at the end, to make matters worse, I mean, this was just beyond. While his wife is sitting by his deathbed, while he's passing away, her phone rings, and this organization is calling and saying, would your husband be willing to donate his organs after he passes away? It just seemed like it was too much. It was just too much. Did you hear that? Just was it yesterday? Sheila is her name, from Alberta. It's another province here in Canada. She just passed away. She was hoping to get to the US, and the US had accepted her that they would do the operation, but she never made it. She just passed away. Another one of those where she was not allowed to be on the list because she was not vaccinated. It is just pure discrimination, nothing less than that.
So really the next step to that is, okay, if we're going to single out these people who are not vaccinated, who's next? Who are we going to single out next, Pastor? You know, are we going to single out the Muslims? Are we going to target the Christians? You know, you could just see that beginning to build and feed itself.
Totally. That's what I was saying too. I think you listened to my video there, is what's next. If you're a Christian, you won't be on the list, or if you're religious, or whatever the situation might be. Those are things that they are making it so obvious anymore that you can't miss it. It's so in this case with this young man that was 35 years old, they then changed it. They said, well, now we're no longer requiring it. So we looked into it, and it was just for kidney transplant, but for lungs or heart or whatever else it was, that was still standing there. So they realize that the public is against them. And actually right now, that is something that I feel like is happening, is that the general public is waking up more and more, because they realize it's far beyond just closing a church. It's far beyond just putting a pastor in prison. But now we're talking organ transplant. Now we're talking beyond. So that's why people are starting to realize this goes way deeper than they first thought.
Do you see public trust in the government at an all-time low right now?
It is here in Canada. I don't know in the US exactly where that stands. Here in Canada right now, it is at an all-time low. There is, of course, there's other here. It's the Liberal Party is in power right now, and then there's the Conservative Party. So the Conservative Party right now, which stands against a lot of these things. I mean, they're politicians, but it's definitely, if you will, a lesser evil than what is ruling right now. And they are far beyond. If there was an election held right now, they would have a huge majority, and that shows you that the general public trust in government here right now is very low. It is hard for the general public to trust them when they see in which area can we trust them. Financially they can't, because they've dragged us into debt like never before. So in which way can we trust them? As far as our constitution, they're saying no, our constitution does not stand when there is a pandemic. So the constitution is questionable. So where can you trust them?
Yeah. I'm just curious, have they revoked your tax status as a church?
They have not. They have not. I thought all along any day it would happen. I thought they would freeze my bank account. And when I was in Ottawa at the trucking convoy for 3 weeks, I thought they would freeze my bank account, but they didn't. And I thought they would take my the status from the church. They haven't. As far as I'm concerned, any day if they need to take it, go ahead and take it. We will not bow to their and worship their image. We can't. We
Yeah.
can't, because it's either we obey God or we obey man.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's hit another topic here. I know it's out there in the media a lot right now, and I see Trudeau all the time pushing this. It's the climate change, global warming, and so forth. What are your thoughts about that as a man of God?
I appreciate you asking that. Somebody told me recently, I had sent out a little video on that. I could finally not resist it. I felt there was such dominating fear, especially because in some of the states, in the United States, it was quite warm. I understand the temperatures were very, very high. And then I saw this thing that there were this weatherman in Germany or Europe, somewhere in Europe, I believe it was in Germany. He showed the weather, and on the bottom of the sign was these flames burning, and he said it is now called boiling. What was that? So climate. First, it was this cooling thing. Well, it was interesting when I dug into it. From the 1940s to the early 1970s. As a matter of fact, the Washington Post, I read the thing, and the Washington Post posted 1970. They said ice age is coming. And then all of a sudden it changed from global cooling to global warming, and then the ozone layer issue, and then the acid rain issue, and then it became global warming, and then that didn't work because our winters were too cold, and then they changed it over to climate change. The whole thing, is just so ridiculous. If they really believed in it, you think they would cut down their private jet flying issues, their big 10,000, 20,000 square foot homes? I'm just saying, I have no problem. They can live the way they want to live. I'm not going to get into that. But all I'm saying is it's a lie. The whole thing is a lie, because look at it. Why did you say for decades that ice age was coming? You lied to us. You lied to us back then, and you're lying to us now. We cannot fall for those things. We cannot. As people of God, let's not fall for those things. They don't have the weather in their control. God has that in his control. It's not the Dutch farmers that are causing this whole thing. I'm standing with the Dutch farmers. We need the farms. We need the fields. We need that. We need all these things. So no, I think it's just another fear tactic that they're using. They can use the carbon tax on that and just charge us for the weather change, or who knows what it is. It is part. It is part of the government oppression. That's all it is.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Well, speaking of the truckers convoy, so you were there, you were ministering to the truckers during that period of time,
Yes, sir.
and the truckers, thank God for them. They really held the
I
line.
tell I tell you what, I was so glad that I was there, because I would have been very ashamed not to be there. I looked around and I thought, oh, so now the pastors won't stand up. The pastors won't stand up for our God-given freedom. And here comes the honking of the trucks. I tell you what, it sent shivers down my back. And I was there for 3 weeks. I intended to go there for 2 days and go back and preach at home. And I said, you know what? I don't think I need to go home and preach. I think the people are fine. And they told me, the congregants told me, stay there, pastor, stay there. They need you. They need you. I never went home. It was so bitter cold. It was so freezing cold, like I've never experienced before. We have to have heat warmers in our gloves, heat warmers in our boots. But I tell you what, I have never in my life seen humanity come together like I saw there. I have never seen 10, 12 truckers come walking towards me and say, Pastor, can you come and please pray with us? I have never seen people sharing food, truckloads of food. I have never seen people being kind. The whole time, not one person was arrested, not one time. People were dancing, people were even drinking, and yet no one was arrested. There was just such a human kindness prevailing in the atmosphere. It I will never forget that in my life. I'm working on writing a book, and then a big part of that is what I experienced there at the trucking convoy. I'll never forget that. It was tremendous. The love, the kindness, the working together, just can't be described.
Yeah, I think it shocked the government, the
It
solidarity of the
sure did.
truckers. To
It
my
sure did.
knowledge, now they didn't really. Trudeau never came out and addressed them and spoke to them personally.
And did you know that that's all they were asking? That's all they were
Yeah,
asking for us. Please come out and address us. At least show your face.
yeah,
Unbelievable, unbelievable that a leader of the people, voted in by the people, unbelievable that a leader would not have the guts to step out, face the truckers, and say, what is it that we must do here? What can we do? The prime minister, knowing that he depends on them shipping the food. He knows the truckers are the ones doing the transporting, you know. But it was unbelievable, unbelievable that the government would not step out and address them. But no, they treated them. He called them a fringe minority and called them all kinds of different names. But it was so obvious because I was right there. Behind me was the Parliament building, and in front of me were the truckers, and I was preaching on the platform of the truck. I couldn't help. I preached. I said, we have wickedness in high places behind me, and we have true humanity right here in front of me. This is what here the truth is right here in front of me, and the lies are behind me there.
Praise God. Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you the closing word here. Just leave us with a word of encouragement. Leave the listeners with a word from the Lord here, a little encouragement.
Thank you, first of all, so much for having me, for giving me this opportunity to speak. I am so encouraged because I know we're standing with God. We're standing on the eternal word of God. This is not the first time that the Christians are attacked. This is not the first time that humanity is attacked. You know what? God is on our side. The truth is on our side. Lies have never prevailed. Stand with God. Like I said earlier, the best is yet to come because God's going to wrap this whole thing up. God is counting on us to stand the test of time. Others have stood before us. The book of Martyrs is 1,000 recorded pages of how people stood even when they were burnt at the stake or were drowned, whatever. Now it's our turn. We were born for a time such as this. Brethren, friends, let's stand together. Anyone that is not a believer, this is a good time to become a believer. God is in control, and right now is the time for us to stand. This is our day. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Henry, for your time. God bless you. Thank you for standing for the truth and the corrupt, evil, wicked government of Canada coming against you.
We will, by the grace of God, continue to do so. And I so appreciate, I always tell people, I said, I can do what I'm doing, first of all, because of God, obviously. And next to that, people like you and your listeners and many across this world that I know, even though I might not know them in person, but we are standing together. And it gives me such courage and such strength to continue right on.
Amen. Do you have a website or a church website that we could put up in the description box for you?
Yes, we have churchofgod.com. Also, I have my own personal henryhildebrandt.com, and there people can find out more. Different ones have asked how they can support, how they can help, even with this that we're going through right now. It should be all in there.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. God bless.
God bless you as well.